Namaste to all students. Myself JV'n Dr. Khushbu Verma from Faculty of Agriculture and Veterinary Science. Today we will discuss about neuron. Neuron or nerve cell is defined as the structural and functional unit of nervous system, and a neuron has branch or processes called axon and dendrites. Neurons does not have any kind of a centrosome, so it cannot undergo the cell division. Classification of neuron. Neurons are classified by three different methods. First, depending upon the number of poles. Second is depending upon the function. Third one is depending upon the length of the axon. So we will discuss about the first type. So depending upon the number of poles. Based on this, we can classify neurons in three groups. First is unipolar, second is bipolar, and third one is multipolar. In unipolar neurons, they have only one pole from a single pole, and both axons and then from where both axons and dendrites arises. This type of nerve cell is present only in embryonic stage in human beings. Second is bipolar neuron. Neuron with two poles are known as bipolar neurons. Neuroaxon arises from one pole and dendrites arise from the other pole. Third one is a multipolar neuron. So these neurons have many poles. One of the poles give rise to axon and all other poles give rise to the dendrites. This is diagrammatically representation in the unipolar. These are cell bodies, and dendrites have been arised in unipolar. In bipolar, these are the dendrites, and in multipolar, axon region, and these are the dendrite region. Next one is the depending upon the function. So only the on the base of function, nerve cells are classified into two types. First is motor or efferent neurons. Second is sensory or efferent neurons. Motor or efferent neurons are the neurons which carry the motor impulse from central nervous system to peripheral effector organs like muscles, glands, blood vessels, etc. Generally, each motor neuron has a long axon and short dendrites. Second one is the sensory or efferent neuron. Sensory or efferent neurons are the neurons which carry the sensory impulses from periphery to central nervous system. Generally, each sensory neuron has a short axon and long dendrites. Depending upon the length of axon. Depending upon the length of axon, neurons are divided into two types. First is Golgi type 1 neurons, second is Golgi type 2nd neuron. Golgi type 1 neurons have long axons. Cell body of these neurons is in different part of central nervous system and their axons reach the remote peripheral organ. And second is Golgi type 2nd neurons. Neurons of these type have short axons and these neurons are present in cerebral cortex and spinal cord. Now come to the myelin sheet. So myelin sheet is a thick protein, lipoprotein sheet that insulated the myelinated nerve fiber. Myelin sheet is not a continuous sheet, it is absent at regular intervals. The area where myelin sheet is absent is called node of Ranvier. Segments of the nerve fiber between two nodes is called internodes, and myelin sheet is responsible for white color of nerve fibers. What is the function of myelin sheet? First is faster conduction, insulating capacity. Now come to the receptors. So receptors are sensory nerve endings that terminates in periphery as bare unmyelinated endings or in form of specialized capsulated structures. Uh, Receptors have give response to the stimulus. When stimulated, receptor produce a series of impulses which are transmitted through the afferent nerves. They are biological transducers, and actually receptor functions like a transducer. And If we go for the classification of receptors, so they are divided into two types. First is exteroceptors, second is interoceptors. Exteroceptors are receptors which give response to stimuli arising from outside the body. They are basically cutaneous receptors, chemoreceptors, and telereceptors. On the other hand, interoceptors are basically visceral receptors and proprioceptors. This is the basically classification of exteroreceptors. Exteroceptors. So basically, as we can see here, three types: cutaneous receptor, chemoreceptor, and teloreceptor. Chemoreceptor again, they are responsible for the taste and smell. On the other hand, telereceptors are basically responsible for the vision and hearing. In the taste, they are basically connected to the taste buds, and for the smell, they are attached to the olfactory receptors. For the vision, they are attached to the rod and cones of retina, and for the hearing, they are connected to the hair cell in the organ of cortine. On the other hand, cutaneous receptor basically responsible for the touch, pressure, cold, warmth, and pain. These are the structural representation of cutaneous receptor. If we talk about the interoceptors, so as we can simply see that interoceptors are basically visceral receptors and the proprioceptors, and basically they are stretch receptors, baroreceptors, chemoreceptor, osmoreceptors. Basically, they are situated at the heart, blood vessels, GI tract, urinary tract, and brain, respectively. On the other hand, proprioceptors are basically muscle spindle, Golgi tendon organ, and Panchian capsules, free nerve ending, and hair cells. They are basically situated at the muscle, tendon, ligament, fascia, joint, vestibular apparatus, respectively. This is the diagrammatic representation of receptor potential in Paschen capsule. Now come to the mechanism of development of receptor potential. Here you can simply see that pressure stimulus and which goes at the end for the generation of action potential in the nerve cell fiber. Synapse. So synapse is the junction between two neurons. It is not an anatomical continuation, but it is only the physiological continuity between two nerve cells. They are classified by two methods. First is anatomical classification, second is functional classification. By anatomical classification, they are exo and exonic synapse, exo and dendritic synapse, and exosomatic synapse. And on the function of functional classification, they are basically electrical snaps and chemical snaps. So this is the sum up of this session, and this session is powered by digital version 2.0 Jyoti Vidyapeeth, Women's University, Jaipur. If you have any query, then mention in the comment box. I will resolve it. Thank you.